confused. We're live, by the way, so keep being confused.
I'm so confused. I'm just an old man,
And I
and I
just
don't
can't hide it.
understand what's happening.
I'm about to lose control.
Today.
And I think
I
I
think I
like
like
it.
it. I think I like it.
Yeah, welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast.
Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine
Alan,
podcast.
might want to unmute there, buddy.
Alan,
Okay.
might want to unmute there, buddy.
I'm echoing
Alan,
in
you might want to
Alan's.
mute there, buddy.
There we go. Alan's having audio-visual problems today. Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast, where we fail to stay on point much of the time. So for that, we have the perfect guest, Kelly Young.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
How are you, buddy?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. How about you guys?
Need to check my notes. I don't remember what you wrote.
You know, every time Kelly comes on, I'm just reminded that I need a spinner rack.
Oh yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
I love a spinner rack, and I really need to get one. I don't have any place to put it.
Yeah, those old comic book spinner racks, or I guess soft covers too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kelly Young is our guest today. I'm Mike Davis. In case this is your first time watching the show, let's do introductions. Start with Mark.
Hi guys, Mark Rainey, editor, writer, scary person, Godzilla friend.
Yeah, what the hell is that with background there?
That is that's some of my monster models up on the shelves that I just did some photoshopping to.
Oh, nice.
Here,
You retired people.
Yeah,
make good use of your time.
We do try.
Matt, Dr. Carpenter.
Hi, I'm Matt Carpenter. I'm running Lovecraft eZine movie night right now. One thing we're going to try and do over the next 6 months or so is watch all of the movies that are included in the DVD collection, All the Haunts Be Ours, which is a massive DVD collection of folk horror.
Oh. Okay.
Cool.
Who put this together?
Me.
No, I mean the DVD collection.
I don't know. I bought it and there it was.
Oh. Okay. Well, thanks for
You can look
being
it up
informative.
I don't know.
Yeah, Google it, Davis. Pete.
Hey, I'm Pete Rollick, having technical difficulties.
You're not having technical difficulties. You're having old man difficulties.
It sounded like you said testicle difficulties.
Oh yeah, well there's that too.
My Lord.
It took you like 5 seconds to unmute.
Yeah, because as I went to unmute, my other bar came up and blocked me, so I had to let it.
I get it. You're not used to this new computer technology. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. But yeah, I also am a Godzilla fan. So.
And a writer. What's your new book? Talk about your new book. I mean, you got to get something out of this.
What about the kids' book?
No, that's not out yet. Talk about the new one that is out.
The other one is the Cthulhu Heresy and Other Lovecraftian Sins. That's coming out soon. Weird House Press. I think it's like 20 or 30 stories, something like that. It's some obscene fat book.
But they make gorgeous hardcover books if you can get it.
Yes, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I'm just absolutely in awe of the design. So I'm really happy with all that. And what else do you want me to talk about?
Oh, Ben, the rest of us are not retired. Oh my God, he's in the side chat typing. I wish I was retired like the rest of this panel.
I'm not retired. I still got 4.5 years to go.
I should be retired, but I'm not.
I'll have to retire when I'm dead because I don't have a retirement plan. So
your retirement plan is death.
Yeah, that is my retirement plan.
Yeah. All right.
We're going to skip Ben. Alan, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Alan Hughes, teacher, artist, and I work on the eZine's game and movie page.
Yeah, you do, and I appreciate it. All right, Ben. It's okay. You can introduce yourself. Try to unmute.
Ben
There you go.
Handelman. So I've been, the one that's had to step into Kelly's shoes on this podcast and antagonize Mike as often as possible, unfortunately, since he left us. So that's my only purpose here.
I think that's everybody's purpose here.
Yeah, well, he even not being here managed to. In this book, there's a character by the name of Michael Davis, and he has white hair. And I don't understand where you get this from.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the similarity ends. Mike Davis in the book is a really nice, good
Oh,
human.
okay.
Okay, so actually, I kind of want to start the interview. It's not really a sidetrack. I think it actually is very important to try to approach this book.
Well,
which
no,
is-
the audience doesn't. I'll let you start, but the audience doesn't know even what the name of the book is yet.
That's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, the secret language of yeah. We don't want anybody to buy it. God. All right, Kelly Young he recently wrote a book called The Secret Language of Spiders, and it is a very good book.
Oh, thank you.
And you can talk about, yes, right there, Pete's showing it. And yeah, so I guess that's all they need to know. The print edition is out right now if you're watching me live, but apparently the Kindle comes out on Tuesday. And
Yeah,
that's
it was all supposed to come out on Tuesday, but if you go on Amazon right now, you can buy the physical copy.
yeah. Amazon's weird like that. So anyway, Matt, go ahead, please.
Okay, so for those of you out there who don't know Kelly and you're going to try and approach this book,
Lucky
I think it
people.
has to be through the prism of his fascination with the visual arts, with both art, comics, and movies. And I was just maybe, Kelly, I thought you could give us like a thumbnail, like when you got interested in the making of movies and what your participation has been, because that's ultimately, I think, what led to this book.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, well, let's see. I moved from a tiny town in Washington State down to Los Angeles right after graduating high school. And so this is actually my second novel. My first novel was what I brought down to Los Angeles, and it was not not very good. But I happened to meet a screenwriter down there who was he'd written for some episodes of Land of the Lost and small television stuff like that. And he looked at my novel and he said, "Have you ever considered screenwriting? Because you write more like a screenwriter than a novelist." And so for the next 30 years, that's what I did was write screenplays. Some of which were picked up or optioned or even sold, and none were made unless I made them independently. And so then when I got a little disillusioned with all the screenwriting stuff the last couple of years, I decided I was going to novelize the screenplays that still belong to me, and this was the first one. And so that might be why it feels uh, visual like that. Is that for 30 years I've been trained as a screenwriter.
So can you tell us like how this particularly story came about? But when it was first a screenplay, what were you aiming to sell it to, or did anyone look at it? Or I was just interested in like the genesis of the book.
Sure. Yeah. It got optioned by a small production company up here in Washington, and then, as happens very often, nothing came of that. The option reverted back to me, and nobody's been interested since. This was originally written as I just thought it would be a neat little sci-fi project, sci-fi horror, like sci-fi, I mean SYFY. I thought I could pitch this to the sci-fi original movies team and see if I could get something going there. And I chose spiders because I'm terrified of spiders, and I did a bunch of research on spiders, and now I'm even more terrified of spiders. And a lot of this was at the time I was seeing a woman who was dealing with depression, dealing very poorly with depression, and she lived in kind of a basement apartment. And the only time that she wanted to see me is when I was bringing her food. And so I just incorporated all of the stuff that was horrible in my life and
Wait,
weaponized it.
wait,
I
all
really
the
hope
stuff
you
that's
dropped
horrible
her
in your
like,
life, and then like all of us appear by name.
yeah.
Well, that was not the case in the screenplay. The
Okay.
screenplay, and then yeah, halfway through writing that, that woman and I split up, and I started seeing Brandy right around that time. And Brandy was the one who gave me the ending for the screenplay because she was reading as it was going along, and she was like, "I just know this is what's going to happen," and I was like, "Oh my God, that's so much better than what I had planned to happen." So,
So,
Thank you,
Kelly,
Brandy.
Kelly, don't you hate that? Like when you've got it happens to me all the time. It's like you're working on some huge plan, and you've got some secret, and you're just like meeting it out to people, and then they look at you and say, "Oh yeah, I know exactly how this is going to end," and they're like, and it's you're looking at them like, "Fuck you."
uh,
It's so much better than whatever I had in my head.
yeah, well, I told her, I was like, that is a brilliant idea. That was not how I was going to end it. And so that's what I did. And when it came time to novelize this, I wasn't sure if I was ever going to write another novel or anything. And so I just populated my entire small town with the names of friends and family members and everything like that. And
Who
so
you
if
then
you
go on
end
to
up,
slaughter.
well, if you end up in
Well,
this
Just
book,
just to be clear,
well,
I would say that.
let's talk about. Okay, that's a spoiler, but not all of us get slaughtered by monsters. Okay, that's all I can say.
have you read the book?
Of course, I've read the book.
That's
That's why I'm angry with you.
So mechanically, Kelly, so how long did you work on the screenplay, and then how long did it take to turn it into a novel?
I worked on the screenplay for probably about 3 months, which is pretty regular turnaround time on a 100-page screenplay. And
Okay.
then, however long it took to do a couple of rewrites on it. But that was, you know, 15 years ago now. So I've written a lot of screenplays since then. Uh, Turning this into a novel was also a very weird process because my parents are both very old, and trying to get them to understand that I was doing all right was something that was important to me. I wanted to write something that I could dedicate to them, and they're my dad had a massive heart attack right after I finished the novella, which is what I turned the script into. It was a very limited novella that I just handed out to various friends and family members, and they got to see that, for mom and dad, and that I'm doing okay, because even when I have even when I've sold a script, try to explain that to your elderly mother. She's like, "When is this movie coming out?" And I was like, "It's never coming out." And she's like, "Well, what are you going to do with it?" I can't do anything with it. I don't own it anymore. So I'm sure they just thought I was, living in a box on the sidewalk somehow. And I wanted to do that, but I actually hired a professional editor to help me with that novella, and she convinced me that I could turn it into a novel, that there was a little more to tell about the history of the town and the people who lived in it.
It,
So it took probably between novel to or novella to novel, it probably took another year. And then, of course, I had the wild idea that I was going to serialize it over 5 months, and that slowed me down a little bit. So,
yeah,
yeah.
that was going to be my next question. What the decision to serialize it instead of just to release it as a novel? How did you come up with that idea? Because it was a great idea. It was very fun.
Not my idea at all. I had a friend who read it, and I had released as a gift again this little short story called "The Testament of DeCrane Cobb" that was going to kind of tie into this thing. And I had given her that little tiny chapbook, and she said, "Oh my God, are you going to release the entire novel this way?" And I was like, "Good Lord, no!" And then over the course of a night, I was like, "That sounds like a really fun idea. I will never do anything like that again."
Well,
It
I immediately
was,
thought of the Green Mile,
yes,
back in the
yes,
90s.
of course. Yeah, and that was kind of the idea behind it, was to do something like that monthly installments of this, and I already had the novel, so I could cut it into these monthly installments. And then I added in postcards and bookmarks and stickers and all of that stuff just to make sure that nobody thought I could make a penny on this idea. So,
Yeah,
and
you did quite a bit
I only,
extra. I mean,
yeah, I
some
only
really cool
limited it
things.
to 33 copies, and that sold out very quickly. Big thanks to you, Mike, for mentioning it on the Lovecraft eZine page, because when I sold like 20 copies, I thought, uh-oh. And you mentioned it, and the next 13 subscribers came in.
Well, thank you. Why 33?
33 is the magic number.
Okay. All right. No real reason that you can think of then.
Yeah, I mean, 33 felt like a number that I could reach, and if I asked for more than that and I didn't get it, I would have to live with the fact that I couldn't sell that many books.
Well, it all went pretty quickly. So, yeah. And, it went quickly. I mean, people really wanted this book because at the outset, I should let you tell this, but at the outset, you said something like, look, I'm asking quite a bit of money for each of these serial books. And you
Right.
can absolutely wait until next year when I publish it as one, novel, and it'll be cheaper then. But then 33 people didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I think, well,
They
it
couldn't wait.
targets that collector's market, and it really wasn't that much because it was split up monthly, so it was $15 per chapter plus shipping. So it was a $20 investment every month for 5 months, but it was numbered, it was autographed by myself and the cover artist, and Wade Chitwood just did an amazing job with all of those covers. And it came with all sorts of little freebies that I thought the collector mentality would go for, which is
Yeah.
all
No, I
coming from
didn't
that
mean to
Strangely
imply
Honest
it.
magazine.
I didn't mean to imply it was too much because it definitely wasn't. But you just said something to the effect of, you did say something like, this is for that collector person who wants to spend a little bit more money, but I just want everyone to know that you can wait if you want to. I mean, you were very upfront with it. So,
Yeah, and I still got one guy emailing me at the end that said, I would have liked this a lot better if it was a little cheaper. And I was like, hey, you know what? I told you to wait.
what? What? You told you up front you said this is the price. Oh my
That's
God.
how it goes.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. So, talk about the research you did, because that's some research I really don't want to ever do.
Yeah, well, the whole idea came from seeing this horrific story about a spider migration in Australia, of course. And they had photos, and I was just horrified. These people just woke up one morning and their entire town was covered in spider webs. And I mean, covered to the point where it looked like it had snowed overnight.
Yeah.
And that visual was so strong that I decided to start looking into stuff like that and wondering how spider migrations work and all of that stuff, which is horrifying. If you didn't think there's such a thing as flying spiders, you're wrong. They're out there. And these kind of things still happen every year, not as much on the West Coast where I live, but in the Midwest, there'll be these massive spider migrations where, millions of spiders will land somewhere and they take over a town for a day or so, and then a large number of them stay there, and the rest are moving on to wherever they're moving on to. And I know that nature is wonderful and all of that stuff, but I was just horrified.
Kelly, nature is red in tooth and claw.
Yeah, nature is
It's
terrifying.
not wonderful.
I need to take Kelly geocaching with me into some of those culverts that are
I was about to bring
totally
you
filled with spiders. They got me over my arachnophobia. It was either that or I didn't get the cache, and I swear I had to get that. I had to get that geocache.
I was actually talking about this to Danielle the other day. I said, you know what the worst is because we haven't had any bug problem at all with our new house, which is great. But I said the worst is like when it's late at night and then you see a spider in the room and you go to grab something to kill it with and you can't find the spider. That's it. And if it's in your bedroom, you're like, I can't go to sleep tonight. I cannot go to sleep tonight. I'll be up all night.
You know, for 22 years, I was a property land surveyor, and we did a lot of cutting through forests. And if we were doing residential stuff, you'd have to set a property corner in the middle of a hedge. And one of one of the inciting incidents of this idea for this story was I had to set a corner that was in the middle of a large hedge on this property, and it's dirty, it's dusty. I'm on my hands and knees. I'm pretty much on my belly, actually, and I'm trying to pound a 2 foot rebar in the middle of this hedge, and there's dust and all this stuff just falling all over my head, and I see just 1,000 dust motes start dropping and then start rising back up, and I realize I've stuck my head into a big spider nest,
Oh,
and these are all spider babies crawling back up the nest, and I was so horrified, and I'm just, screaming and trying to get all this off of my head. And I thought that was how this story was going to end, was with that vision that I had seen there, but I think it ended with a much better idea.
Kelly, do you know the whole cranberry harvesting issue?
No.
So when they go to harvest cranberries, they flood the cranberry bogs, and you have to wade out and pull the cranberries off of the plants because they're floating.
Ghost. Oh,
And
not a ghost.
then what happens is the fields are full of wolf spiders. And
Ah.
you are now the highest point in this flooded lake.
Hmm.
And all the wolf spiders crawl. So it's like, it's literally a requirement that you have to understand going into the job, that you will just be covered with wolf spiders.
mm,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wolf spiders
not a
are
job I would take.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so talk about some of the research that you did, because um, I was particularly struck by especially in the beginning when she's, well, I can't give away anything. Geez.
Oh, I think the basic premise is okay.
All right, she's
This
yeah.
this is a pastor who has lost his faith, and his wife is turning into a gigantic spider.
All right, okay. Uh,
Wait, what?
wait, that's not. I thought it was a rom-com. I read the wrong book. This is kind of a romance, though, if you think about it. So,
Oh my lord.
No,
Well,
my
I mean, a
God, no.
relationship.
It's, I
Well,
mean, between Morticia and Gomez, maybe, but
No.
I
we
think
we joke
that
about it, but one thing I remember saying, because this book took me a while to read, even like I was one of those 33 subscribers and everything. It
Yeah.
took me a while to read because the relationship between the pastor and his wife feels very real to me. My wife is actually like dealing with some health issues, and so I remember telling Kelly, like, hey, I'm not taking a long time to read this because it's bad. It's because it's too good and feels too real. I need to put it down for a little bit and come back to it. So, like, in addition to what Mike's asking, like, can you talk a little bit about like kind of maybe dealing with some of that kind of personal experience you're putting into the book, because that felt so visceral to me and made
yeah.
it real tough at points to read.
Yeah, well, obviously, I brought a lot of my personal feelings, losing Brandy, into the story. You could say that I'm pretty bitter against, if there is a supreme being, which I'm leaning towards more and more as I get older. I think that he must be a real fucking asshole, and so there was a lot of that in the story, writing it this time. Um, and there was also just this kind of understanding that we as humans will put up with a lot of horrible things, but we will also do a lot of horrible things in the name of love. So I just decided to kind of vomit all of that out on the page. And yeah, Benjamin, you told me all of that stuff, and I kept telling you, hey man, you don't have to read this book.
Well, but see, that's one of the things. It's like first of all, there's the visual eye for the descriptions, but then there's that passion behind the relationship. And that was, It's like I devoured it like in a few hours. I mean, it was like, and I'm going like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I kept coming back to it because it is so good. It's one of those like, okay, I got to put this down. And then the next day it's like, okay, I'm just going to read a couple more pages and see, maybe I can get through the next chapter. And then the last half of it, I couldn't put it down. I mean, it was unbelievable. So like that passion, even if it's a subject that's maybe a little bit too close to home for some of us, it's so well written. And I want to emphasize this to the people listening, like, reading it like if it hadn't been for my personal situation, I probably would have done the same and read it in like one sitting. It was so, I mean, I would literally go to the bar, order a glass of whiskey, sit there, and I'd be sipping it, and I'd be reading. I mean, it was so good.
Now, see, for me, it's like I bought the 5-part serial, but this is me. So when the books came in, I put them in all different places in the house, basement, park. I have no idea where the hell they are. Honest to God, I never even read it. So when you said, could you write a review? I said, sure, if you send me a copy. And that's why I got to read it all in one sitting, completely fresh, not having read even a single word. And that's how I recommend people go into it. And it really has a visceral punch.
Well, thank you. You guys and everybody has just said some almost embarrassingly kind words about this book, which is not at all what I was expecting. But turns out I love that. Who would have known?
So
be clear, you're still a dick. Okay. Right.
Oh yeah, for sure.
no, no, you're not. But honestly, Kelly, it's really you know that scene in High Fidelity where he walks into his store and the guys that are working for him are listening to the tape that the two skater boys have put together.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there going, is this right? Yeah, and it's like, it's really fucking good. It's the last thing you, and it's just really fucking good.
Thank you.
And honestly, Matt is my role model because as the books came in, I read them as they came in, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I would put this in the book, I would put them in a safe place. A different safe place every time.
So safe you couldn't find it again.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do remember getting like a Facebook message from Pete, which was, what the hell? And I was like, he must have gotten to the part where he shows up.
Yep.
No, it's fun. It's good. Actually, I know you don't want to hear this, but there's something about it that is very Stephen King. And it's that quality of work. It has that depth of human emotion that I think Hallmark's king.
Definitely not cardboard characters.
No.
How you set up this? How you set up the town from the very beginning? It lives and breathes.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I thought this was a screenplay in motion, because this sets the scene that permits everything that follows to happen.
Yeah, well, before I novelized it, then I had put together a pitch for Netflix for a 12-part series that was called Welcome to Cobb's End, and it was a separate storyline about a serial killer in a small town. I thought I could make it kind of Twin Peaksy, but one of the side stories was going to be that the pastor's wife was turning into a spider. So I grabbed all of my notes from that, and that's where you get kind of this this deputy who turns out to be kind of a big part of the story, and the sheriff and all of that.
Oh, and I gotta say, I don't want to spoil too much, but that scene where there's this little girl and her mother in the church, and I thought, this would creep people out if it was actually on screen. You could do so much with music and camera angles and not even really have to have any special effects to make it utterly terrifying.
Yeah, I like that scene a lot too. Thank you.
And I wasn't sure if it was a movie, if I was reading the Italian version of the horror movie or the Americanized version? You know the difference I'm talking about?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, where kids are not safe.
Oh,
You know,
I
kids are
see.
not safe.
Yeah, I would say that nobody's safe in this book.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
funny because what stood out to me in that scene was actually how well you wrote the pastor character. Because there's things that, like, if you're a religious person, I could kind of like the way that the pastor's like he's burned out, he's lost his faith, with everything going on, and he's getting sermons from online, and this is like a real thing that happens,
Yes.
and a character is like, oh my gosh, this is speaking so much to me, and you're going between the two perspectives, and it just feels so real. Like that's one of the things I loved is those little details. And I think that's what kind of that Stephen King comparison really lands with me as well, because those kind of details make it feel like this is a real story. This is something that's really happening. Whereas when those details are wrong, it's easy to kind of get pulled out of the story and not feel invested or really care what happens to the characters. Instead, they feel like real people, and I'm invested in what's going to happen next.
Ah, that's very kind. The novel is slightly different than the serialized novel in that I had a real cheerleader who is a believer who gave me a few critiques on some of the church stuff. She was like, hey, listen, I love all of this, but even the jankiest church has some kind of music section, where there's hymns or something. And if you're not going to have that, you need to explain that. And I was like, yes, of course I do. That's a brilliant input. So yeah, I had a lot of people who helped me out on this, who gave me their thoughts and amazing beta readers. My amazing editor Andrea was just something else. And then even all the way to the end, Benjamin, you had pointed out a couple of things, and I was like, oh shit, I still have time to fix that. So I did. So I think that what's out right now is the best that I could do, thanks to everybody who loves me.
what
And
about the when you're first talking about what the wife senses as she's turning into this creature, this spider, and her senses are starting to expand, and it was described very, very well. I could almost picture what she was picturing and seeing and feeling as much as you could, you know.
see, I actually really appreciated that because it's not like some silly spider sense. It's like,
Mhm.
how does a spider actually detect prey is in its web? It like keeps one of its appendages on the web and it can sense the slightest vibrations, and because it's coming from different strands can sort of triangulate to where it's coming from. And that I thought that's a very spidery kind of description.
Yeah, and the research I did pointed me towards the idea that it's not just a vibration like you and I would see that spider is getting so much information, and it would be like if we were flooded with colors and emotions even from that vibration. And so that's what I tried to do, was kind of humanize her spiderness.
Yeah, because it talks about all these different colors and in the darkness, and I can't remember the exact description, but it felt very, very real. Um, anyway, yeah, it made it seem more real. So yeah, well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, yeah, who else has got questions for Kelly? I'm looking at my notes here.
So go into a little bit more detail on like the Cobb's End setting, because you've talked about how you created it for the screenplay, but it looks like it feels like you've been working on it for a long time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I live in a small town in Washington, not a tiny town like Cobb's End, but uh, COVID and the COVID closures kind of instructed how I approached the town there. My town is starting to come back from it now, but it's not zero buildings that still have boarded up windows and shops that are closed and businesses that, stopped running because they were shut down. And I know that smaller towns in Washington, there's a couple that are nearly ghost towns because the small businesses there were shut down. And I thought that coupled with my love of something like Twin Peaks or just small town horror in general, I thought I could put together a town of 15,000 people where you could kind of believe that with everything struggling the way it was, that maybe some of this weirdness would go unnoticed for a while. The weirdness around the lake and stuff like that. Because this ends up being it's a tiny story until it's not.
Yeah, because there are other things going on like COVID and the recovery from COVID. It's very easy to see how people would miss the signs that something else is wrong.
Right, and the entire the vacant lot full of tents. That's we have that here still in Everett. We've got a canvas city where it's a startling number of homeless people living in a very small area. So yeah, I tried to just kind of throw out everything that was going on in my head.
Well, it also the testament of sorry, I don't see the title in front of me. What was the title of that book? That section?
Testament of Decrane Cobb.
Yeah. It seemed not that you were trying to imitate him in any sense, but it seemed to me in this section of the book that it was almost an homage to Lovecraft in a way, at least in a couple of sections.
I would say, I would say, yeah, very obviously. I think everybody knows that I'm a huge Lovecraft fan, and I wanted to. I mean, when I was writing in high school, it was all Lovecraftian pastiche,
Right.
as many of us did, and then you kind of find your own voice and you figure out what you want. And the Stephen King stuff I get because he was my favorite writer, so I don't think that I've got the talent or any of that stuff. But if you see some similarities, it's because that's the kind of writing I love. And so, yeah, there's Lovecraftian um, influences in that particular backstory, but also what I wanted to kind of do was a little bit of a Salem's Lot story with a Jerusalem's Lot section. Like
That's
the whole
exactly what I
story.
was just going to say. That was the
Yeah,
comparison that the secret language of spiders is your Salem's Lot. And the Testament to Crane Cobb is your Jerusalem's Lot.
Yeah.
that was very obvious, and I didn't plan on putting them all together until I thought, oh, this would be kind of a neat break right before the third act, where you suddenly realize, oh shit, this is a lot bigger than we all knew.
Of what I found in the attic and library of Tillman House, I will not speak, nor shall I discuss the horror of the basement well that tapped into the cursed waters of the lake, save only to say that what war and politics instilled in me, the belief that humankind has never been under the watchful care of a benevolent God, was last night reinforced 100 times over. There may very well be a God, but if so, it dwells at the bottom of Tillman's depths, plotting humanity's demise. I was like, man, I love this. This is great.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some Lovecraft fans who will go, oh, I get it. I see what he's doing here.
Yeah. Well, there was a passage too about black seas of infinity. But, that we all have our influences. Like Pete mentioned the Stephen King influence, and there's, obviously a Lovecraft influence. But, you know, it's not that you're, um, just spitting out Stephen King or Lovecraft. This is your twist on it. This is your take on it. Or this is the story that you wanted to write, but you have influence. We all have influences. So
Yeah, I agree.
well said. What else do we want to ask Kelly?
All right, so this is the part, Kelly, where we hit you. All right, so great. You put this book out. It's wonderful. We loved it. What the fuck are you gonna give us next?
Pete,
That's
this is
true.
my line.
It is Matt's line, yeah.
Because actually, this is great, and I think you should revel in it for a little while. But you mentioned you were going to novelize several screenplays, so I picked up when you said that. Are you actually going to do that, or do you have something in mind?
Yeah, actually, October 17th of this year is the biggest supermoon. It is a hunter's moon, and I have a werewolf novella that will be released then.
No
And then
kidding.
I have,
Good
yeah, and then
timing.
I have another novella sometime, in March of next year, and I am writing a novel right now that I think is probably going to be very much bigger than The Secret Language of Spiders, as far as word count goes.
Well, it seems to me that when you decided that you were, I don't know, through with screenplays, at least for a while, that you really blossomed when you started writing novellas. It's almost like an explosion of output now.
Yeah, well, I had a dream, and that dream was, just a dream. But in that dream, I was given a certain amount of time on the planet, and I thought, if there is a box that says I exist with my name on it, or I existed, what's in that box? And if it's a bunch of unproduced screenplays, I'm going to be very disappointed. But if everybody then goes, oh, shit, he said he was a writer, and here's a bunch of shit he wrote, that's the best you can hope for, right?
It is. At the same time, you've got a very healthy attitude about all this, and we talked about this privately. That you said something to the effect of someone said, took a picture of the book and said, "Hey, this is a great book," and you told me, "Isn't that all you can ask for? This is great." Um, and I had the thought that so many people, so many writers and other creative people, not just writers, but other creative people, they do accomplish this, but they don't have this attitude of, "Hey, I accomplished something, and it's okay to pat myself on the back a little bit." They're not going to be happy until they are, just a peg below Stephen King, it seems. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was Brian Callahan, the Lovecraft Film Festival director, who had just finished the Portland Horror Film Festival, and then they decided to take a vacation to the coast, and he took a lovely picture of the book and a sunset, and he said, "Enjoying the sunset with a good book." And for some reason, that just struck me as like, oh, that is all I ever needed to hear, was somebody say this is a good book. And I feel like you can't really ask for much more than that. It doesn't have to be a great book. I didn't feel like I was writing a great book, but I do enjoy that somebody thought it was a good book.
Now, I often get like, this was a horrible book, but it's meant to be a compliment.
How does that work as a compliment again?
Well,
Fairly horrific, I suppose.
I remember actually, I just remembered this, but in an edition of Salem's Lot that I read, Stephen King did a afterword or an introduction, and he said he wrote in there something to the effect he was writing about his mother, and he said something to it's been years since I read this, at least 15. But if she would have been alive to read Salem's Lot, she would have read it and, you know, liked it or kind of liked it and put it away and said, this is trash, but it's good trash. And that was Stephen King talking about Salem's Lot. He said, this is what my mother would say. So,
on that topic, my mom continues to tell me that she hasn't finished the book because it's too scary. And I was like, oh, can I put that on the cover?
yeah, my mom said,
my mom got me into Stephen King. So the fact that she's like, this is scaring me too much. I don't want to read this at night.
Oh, she
Okay.
read Stephen King and got you into it?
My my first memory of Stephen King is I was 7 maybe or 6, and we had the paperback copy of Carrie that had the image of Sissy Spacek with the blood all over her face,
Hmm.
and I she would leave it out wherever she was done reading it, which was on a chair or end table or something like that. But if I had to pass by that cover, I was scared, so I would look around and find something like a shirt or something that I could throw on top of the cover so I could pass by. And yeah, so for a
Were you
long
an
time
adult
we
or yet, or were you still a kid?
this was Friday. No, I was like 6 years old.
Yeah,
So, but I think I read Salem's Lot when I was 10, and then since then we've always just traded Stephen King books. So
but yet she finds your book too scary to finish, but she reads Stephen King.
she doesn't like spiders. So, that's you figure out what scares you, and you're gonna find other people who feel the same way.
Well, it worked for Batman with the whole bats thing.
Right.
Now I have to say I have only read the first chapter of the spiders so far, but I know I'm going to continue it because in fact, it was this afternoon. I was like, I really need to read some of this real quick. So I read the first chapter, and I was really taken. The little background drew me right in, and it made me feel like this is a place, and characters that they're very well drawn, and it's very vivid. So I'm anxious to keep going.
Oh, thank you, Mark. That is really kind of you. Thank you.
And
I'm gonna take it one more step. I'm going to give my copy of this book to somebody else to read because I believe in it that much. So,
Wait a
yeah.
second. Didn't I autograph that to you,
Oh
Pete?
yeah, never mind. I can't do that. Wow. I will buy somebody else a copy of that book.
Well, I told Mike that I've got a copy right here that I'm willing to, give out to a eZine listener. So if Matt does the drawing and wants to just tell me where to send it to, and if they want, I'll personalize it. So
there you
yeah, I would
go.
love to do that.
Okay, I will go ahead and make an announcement on the page.
Boy, don't
And
sound too excited about
But
it.
the thing is, the drawing won't take place for like 6 or 8 weeks.
yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
It's Lovecraft eZine prizes at gmail.com.
Yeah, I always love that you guys do that. That is such a neat thing. So
I got to give Matt all the credit on that. I did it once or twice, and it would have stopped there because I hate going to the post office, but he kept it going for years. So, yeah, credit where it's due. Can you talk just a little bit more about, because it was making my skin crawl, the way that, first of all, it's scary. I can really see, and I didn't do this, but I can really see two things. Reading this at night, I would have been really creeped out, and I would have been looking around for spiders. That's number one. But, the passages where she's like, God, I'm so hungry. And hungry is in caps. Like she's trying to convince her husband, no, you don't get it. I need something more than this to eat. This isn't going to fucking work. And I thought, the other thought I had was, and I don't know if you've thought about this or not, but this would be a very good audiobook with the right narrator, because you can't skip ahead in audiobooks. It can add this added dimension um, to a book if it's done right.
yeah, wow. Well, I would love to have an audiobook version of this available. It would just mean that I've got to finance that, and I just don't have the cash to do that right now.
No,
But
I get it. I financed the Sea of Ash audiobook, and I'm not sorry that I did, but I don't know yet if I've made the money back on that, you know?
right, that by the way, that Sea of Ash audiobook, I remember you sending that to me years ago, and that was the one that blew me away so much I had to posted all over Facebook at how great that book was and how great that reading was. That was Lehman Kessler, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
Lehman Kessler, and yeah, you made that was a very nice posting that you put everywhere, a review that you put everywhere. I know that Lehman and Scott really it made their day, probably made their year. So
It was one of those books that just kind of made me go, "Wow, holy shit!"
that was the intro music, I think, that pulled it all together and just
Of
made it
course.
that much more extra pop,
Right? Yeah. Actually, it didn't even need to be mentioned.
Well, no, I thought I'd mentioned it anyway.
Yeah, I would love to do an audiobook, and maybe I'll invest that into myself. This whole thing has just been kind of a investing in myself production. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Maybe I'll decide to do something like that.
You know, you don't know where you're going to be 3 years from now, 5 years from now. A lot of very high authors that are very high profile now have gotten their start self-publishing in this day and age.
Yeah.
So you never know. But if it doesn't happen, that's the thing that I appreciate about you, and it's something that not a terrible lot of people have, is that you're happy with what you have, and more is gravy. You'll be glad if you get it, but more is gravy on top of what you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, look, it took me a long time to get there. I turn 55 next week, and I don't want to pretend that for 50 of those years I have been a pleasant person to be around, because that is
That's
just
true.
not the case.
55.
I can vouch for
Oh
that.
my God, you poor guy, 55. How can you live? Jesus.
I can
My
vouch for
point
not a
being,
pleasant person all that time.
right,
Uh,
right. I think maybe the last couple of years I've grown up, and I
You,
changed my
you,
attitude on everything.
you've mellowed like fine wine.
Oh, I like that. Thank you.
well,
Like,
you seem to be a pretty pleasant person for someone with a brain full of spiders.
The brain is full of snakes. I wrote
Oh,
spiders.
okay. But when you're talking about a few points in the novel that I'm looking forward to reading, but just from hearing about it, I was thinking I might write a country song called "My Eight-Legged Romance," dedicated to Kelly Young.
I'll take it. I will take it.
eight-legged romance. Why don't you talk about the art for a while? And Wade.
Yeah, Wade Chitwood. So the art for the novel, I actually went back on my old Strange Eons magazine stuff, which was if I didn't have an artist set up, I would scour DeviantArt until I found a piece that worked, and then I would contact that person and say, "Here's what I've got. Would you be interested in this?" And I would always get a yes. And so that's what this cover was for. But for the serialized novel, I had 5 pieces done by a local artist named Wade Chitwood, who is a filmmaker and a writer. And I ended up using his name in the book as well. So that was weird to because I didn't know that he was going to be doing the art. But yeah, he's got a really interesting eye, and he's a digital artist. So I would tell him what I thought I wanted, and then he would give me like 5 different ideas, and then just let me pick from that. And that was a really interesting way to go through things. And these digital artists, they have like a just this massive catalog of stuff that they can pull from their old work and all that stuff. So he for the cover that has the truck on it, he sent me this cover that he thought was finished, and I was like, "Oh no, it's a late model. It's not one of the original Toyota Land Cruisers like I like. It's a late model." And he goes, "Oh, by late model you mean newer?" I said, "Yeah." And then 10 minutes later, here came the same image, but with the right truck in it, and I was like, this guy must just have everything at his fingertips. He's got a film that has been on the film festival circuit for like 2 years. It's called The Prospector. It is an animated feature that he did, and or not feature, but animated short film. And I think he's won like almost 50 awards for this film. It is like the most awarded film to come out of Seattle ever.
Is it a short film, or
It is a short film, yeah.
where can we watch this?
It's still in the festival, so
Oh, still in the
you're not
festival.
you're not gonna put it on YouTube until everybody's had a chance to say no to it, I guess. But he's he's working on now a feature animated thing. So his name is Wade Chitwood. Just a really interesting cat.
Yes, if you Google him, it's Chitwood.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of film and awards, you allowed me to watch a short film of yours that's not available yet. And, I think I replied with, I don't know what kind of sick person thinks this shit up, but you're winning awards for it. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was called The Connoisseur, and it was dreamt up over a bottle of wine one night, and it's not horror, although it's a
The
little
gift of
horrific.
alcohol keeps on giving.
And I gave that to my longtime directing partner, Eric Morgret, and he then, all credit goes to Eric. He directed the shit out of that. And by that, I mean, he didn't just direct the actors to do everything. He put together this crew of people that is just, stunning. Uh, and put out a really lovely professional looking thing of a very, very silly story. It's only about 3 minutes long.
I had the thought that in lesser hands, this could have just been the really bad B movie version of a short film. Um, but it actually, the acting is top notch. I wanted to ask you, I know it's not available to view yet, but number one, talk about the awards you've won. And I wanted to ask you, there's a there's a short scene where the guy's on stage and I'll just say it, he has no pants. So, and then this lady in the audience, the camera scanning the audience, if I remember correctly, and then this lady in the audience, she's obviously looking at his goods, and she's like, hmm, like that. Was that in the original, or did Eric add that?
No, that was we had this all completely storyboarded.
Nice.
I used an artist named John Fulton who has done some stuff for us. He storyboarded the entire thing, and then there is a visual special effect in there. That visual effect was done by Wade Chitwood, so it's all
Really
very
nice.
incestuous around here. Yeah, and that main actor, J.D. Lloyd, has been the main actor in just about everything we've done. So he is in the Shunned House, and he is in both versions of The Thing on the Doorstep that we made.
He's in
So
the package.
he's in the package, yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
I
the
for...
package.
I love the package, and you can't talk about the package because then it's completely ruined. That moment is completely ruined.
So I've been wrapping my head around how to define a Lovecraftian horror story. And there's a story by Henry Kuttner that mentions all the Lovecraftian, it name drops a whole bunch of Lovecraftian stuff, and nothing Lovecraftian ever happens in the story.
Yeah.
It's just set in the Lovecraft universe. And the package is sort of like that idea that there's a handful of people that are smarter than all the doctors and professors at Miskatonic University. And they live in nice clubs with bottles of scotch and a nice fireplace, and they just go quite on happy with their lives.
Yeah.
None of them go insane.
Yeah.
So Eric directed that as well, and that film has played at so many festivals and gotten so many accolades. We came in third place at the Las Vegas, I don't know what it was, 13 or something, and they only accepted 13 films out of the thousands of films that were submitted to them, and ours was one of them, and we came in runner up. And Clive Barker's manager came over and said, "Hey, if you're ever in LA, you should come down to the studio, and Clive and I will show you around and all this stuff." That if I had known that that film was going to do that well, I would have said we should drop in a couple of bucks into this budget. I mean, we made that for $0, and it looks like it. Uh, Luckily,
I think you're being too hard on yourself. You've said this to me before privately. I mean,
well,
I
luckily
get where you're coming from, but it was good enough for Clive's manager to say, "Hey, come see us."
It is very low rent. It is low budget. Literally $0 was spent on that. But the connoisseur looks like $1,000,000, and almost $0 was spent on it. We just pulled in years of favors and got an amazing cinematographer, and that thing probably should have cost us $10,000, but it cost us the cost of feeding everybody for a day.
It's
Well, on
very
that
well
note,
done.
I have to go cook dinner. So, Kelly, congratulations on the book.
Thank you,
I'll
Pete.
see you soon, I hope.
I
And
hope so too.
I'll see everybody later, guys. Thanks.
See you, Pete. Thank you,
Love
See you,
bud.
Pete.
Bye, Pete.
So, Kelly, did you ever get
Fuck,
down to
now that
LA?
Pete's gone.
Yeah,
Oh,
now that
Jesus
Pete's gone.
Christ.
Thank God. We can talk about him.
No, that was one of the many times that I did not take advantage of something that was offered of me. I've let so many things slip through my fingers over the years, and I regret all of them.
It is what it is. You know, you just published a really, really good novel. It's your first published novel, and people are going to read this and go, "I want more." You know, seriously.
Hey, from your mouth to Cthulhu's ears, I would
That's right.
love that to happen.
Or the Spider God's ears to be more.
Right.
What awards did you win for the latest
Only
film?
one award. It won the Viewer's Choice at the Bone Bat Film Festival here in Seattle, which was really neat. I'll take Viewer's Choice over any award because that means the audience really loved it. And then I got the chance to see it. It's played like 4 festivals. I got the chance to go down to the Portland Horror Film Festival this last time and see it in a theater. That was my first time seeing it on a big screen, and it was very gratifying. People laughed at all the right places. People groaned at all the right places. The reveal when the man has no pants got a lot of laughs. So it was one of those things where I felt like, oh, this came together exactly like I hoped it would. And again, all credit to Eric Morgan, the director of that film.
Well, that's got to be gratifying, though, to be in an audience watching it on the big screen, and you know, they're getting it, they're laughing and they're groaning in all the right places, the places I intended for that to happen.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
hoped it
that's
would
something
happen.
else.
But you know, I mean, you're a good guy, and you're giving Eric a lot of credit, and he deserves it. But also, and I was talking about this with Paul. He said in Hollywood they don't respect writers, so you know they bill him as a creator, not a writer. And we were talking about what such bullshit it was. Nothing happens in film, whether it's a short film like yours or a blockbuster, without first a writer writing it all down,
Yeah.
getting it out of their head and onto paper, so to speak.
You know, I think a lot of that comes from you don't look at a guy behind a $100,000 film camera and go, oh, I can do that. But everybody has a keyboard,
hmm
and so everybody can write. I think that's where a lot of that lack of respect comes from. It's like, oh, I can do that. I can sit in front of a keyboard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, try it and see what you come up with. You
Yeah.
know? Anyway, I'm really looking forward to the werewolf one. Do I get to read that one ahead of time? Yes, right? You're going to say yes?
I will say yes, Mike.
But you don't mean it. I know that.
I mean it. I mean it. No, are you kidding? You've been one of my biggest cheerleaders. If I can get something to you ahead of everybody and you can start pimping it out, I would love that.
Well, I'm very happy to do it with this, and I will happily do it with the werewolf story, I'm sure. And I'm sure I won't get as many. I'm sure it'll be horrifying and scary, as I'm sure it's meant to be, but you won't have spiders, and that's
That's right.
probably a plus for me.
Yes.
For me, and personally, you know.
Well, I think I'm done with spiders too. There's a couple of characters that feel like they should probably have something else that goes on after this story, and I was like, I don't think I want to write about spiders anymore.
Yeah, yeah. How was the research? The research just spooked the hell out of you?
Yeah, well,
Talk about that a little bit.
there are videos of spiders, so they'll just send a strand of webbing up into the air and the breeze catches it, and that's how they move on to their next place. And so when you're walking in the middle of nowhere and all of a sudden you get that strand over your face, that's what has happened. They have landed somewhere and they've let loose of their flight. And
But Kelly, didn't you ever read Charlotte's Web? It's a happy time.
it is,
Hmm.
yeah, I have not gone out of my way to kill a spider since I have done this, but I do have a no-fly zone in the house. I understand that they are here somewhere, but if I see them, they got to go.
Exactly. And I
And I'm
don't
not going
care.
to.
I don't give a damn if they eat other bugs. Okay, just do it somewhere where I'm not.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's
yeah.
fine.
So yeah, I thought that this would get me past it, and it's just made my arachnophobia much worse.
Well,
They
I
they
remember.
move so alien-like. They're so freaky to even look at.
Yeah, in I'm glad you said that because I forgot to say this. In Lovecraftian stories, a lot of stories, there's this point where the one of the protagonists sees the monster or the god or whatever, and their mind just turns to putty, turns to jello. And it's pretty easy to, you know, oh, whatever. I wouldn't be that way. But imagine a spider blown up to 100 sizes larger, and tell
Mm,
me that you wouldn't start gibbering, because you probably would.
yeah, for sure.
Well, I thought you were pretty much a spider lover after writing this book, so I I didn't really. But you remember Bridget sent a little video to all of us on the panel,
Yes.
and she's like, Mike and I thought we thought there was somebody at the back door, the doorbell cam, and they looked, and it's this spider over the doorbell cam. So I was like, Kelly should
Yeah.
see this. So I sent it to
Y-
you.
Yeah, and that was so creepy because it was just moving in its weird spidery fashion, and
Right.
yeah, no thank you.
Yeah, there's a reason why we're afraid of the alien other. You know, it's s- you know selective. We the ones who weren't did not survive. Let's put it that way. So
Right.
um, there's a reason why it's kind of burned into our system. Okay. Anyone else have questions for Kelly before we move on?
By the way,
Just
Mike,
if you are out there
oh,
watching and you want to get a signed copy, all you have to do is probably bring your copy to the HP Lovecraft Film Festival. I'm sure I'll be happy to sign it for you.
with that in mind, I'm going to have autograph copies available on my website once I get that all figured out, and
Ooh,
it's just going to
website.
be it's just going to be the cost of the book plus shipping, so it's probably going to be closer to $16 than the $10 on Amazon. But
Website
yeah,
is
reach out to me.
written by klyoung.com.
Right. But reach out to me on Facebook, DM me either on my author page or my regular page and say you want it, and I'll figure out how to get that to somebody. Also, if you were one of the 33 original subscribers to the serialized novel, do not go buy this book. Reach out to me. If you are willing to leave a review on Amazon for the book, and I'm not looking for 5-star reviews, just a review, screenshot that, send that to me. I'll send you a copy of the novel.
Just honest 5-star reviews, right?
Well, just honest 5-star reviews. And then, Mike, I wanted to show you this. I don't know if you can see that.
Holy. Oh,
That's
Oh,
the novella.
awesome.
to show that
And
again, I
that's
got to put you on
that's
screen.
Wade.
That
That's
is a
Wade.
great cover.
Yeah, that's Wade Chitwood again. I'm just gonna use him forever.
Yeah,
And it's
good.
called
That's probably smart. Let me see the
it's
back.
called the distant. Yeah, it's called the distant silver melody.
They get together to hunt every year. Their targets are always monsters. Wow, that looks cool.
So
That
yeah,
looks very
it's
cool.
short, it's fun, and it'll be available October 17th.
Okay. Um, Kindle in print as per usual.
Yes.
All right. So if you're one of the 33, do what Kelly said. You know, and if you look, if you've been with us a while, you know who Kelly Young is. He's our friend. He has written a really good book here, in all seriousness. And one of the best things that you can do, especially for a writer, this is their first book they published, is to write a review on Amazon. Even if you get the book from somewhere else, writing a review on Amazon is a really, really good thing to do. So, and also Necronomicon, you're not going to be there, but you're going to send some autographed books to there for me, right? We can work out the details on that.
Absolutely, and thank you very much. That's a very generous offer.
Well, they're giving me a table as usual, so we'll have Pete books. I'll have 50 signed copies of Laird's new book. I'll have signed copies of Kelly's new book, and I'm not sure who else said they were gonna take advantage of the table, but I'm sure we'll figure it out. So,
Sounds good.
yeah. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Because I have to be honest, I'm not feeling very well today, so I may cut it from here.
I actually have to go. I just really wanted to be on the episode.
Oh,
Thanks for
okay.
being here, Matt.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize I wouldn't have finished this book if it wasn't as good as it was. And I don't have problems DNFing books. Like it's not a big deal to me. I'll just move on to something else. And as disturbing as some parts of this were, it was like, oh, I got to power through it. It's too good. I can't put it down. Like even if Kelly keeps telling me to stop reading it, which he did multiple times,
Yeah.
it's worth finishing.
He was
Everyone
like,
really.
he was
this
like,
is a,
you bought it. That's all I care about.
it really is like, as much as like, oh, he's a friend, like we're gonna say nice things, like it really is worth reading. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's gonna regret it, honestly.
No, and
Okay.
someone asked me on my Thursday show here if I would talk about when do you give up on reading a book. Well, I think the answer is different from everyone, but what I said was I'm 53 years old and I got less years in front of me than I have behind me. I give up on a book when I've decided it's crap. You know, I don't keep score. Oh, I read 5 books this week. You know, aren't I great? Oh no, I don't finish a book so that I can put another notch on my headboard.
See, for me, it's like I give up on a book after I've lost my copy. I'm kidding.
When you
And,
put it in a safe place, or
so
Right.
my point is, I read this book all the way through, not just because Kelly's a friend, but because Ben is correct. It's damn good and it's real and it's immediate is the word that I kept thinking. What I kept thinking was it feels like these are real people caught, and this pastor, this kind person, and he's caught in an impossible situation where his wife is turning into this monster, and you know there are these warring conflicts. He's totally in love with his wife. I mean, there's no, well, we were thinking about divorce or anything. No, he's totally in love with his wife, and so he's got this conflict about what do I do? My wife is turning into this thing, and do I help her? Do I kill her? And it just felt very real people were put in this situation, and that's what part of what makes the book so successful. So yeah, guys, if you're going to get the Kindle version, you'll have to pre-order it. It'll drop on Tuesday, but otherwise you can get the print version right now, and it'll be sent to you. But if you are going to get the Kindle version, do Kelly a favor and go ahead and pre-order it. That helps out a lot, more than you know. And then it'll just drop onto your Kindle without you thinking about it on Tuesday. And it's only $3.99 on Kindle. And that's, for what this book is, that's an absolute steal. Really is. I wouldn't be surprised if he ups the price in a month or something, but that's an absolutely great price. So
Thank you so much, Mike.
yeah.
To all of you. Thank you for such kind words. This is really, really nice of you.
Well, I think we're going to end it here today, guys. Thanks for watching. Yeah, support Kelly, buy the book and read it. You won't be sorry. And I'll see. By the way, join me Tuesday night. I'm doing this live horror story reading thing on Tuesday night. Again, it was an experiment. I didn't know if anyone would even care, but people seem to like it, and that's at 10 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube channel. And then Thursday night, late night, I do a sort of, it's almost, describe it like a late night radio show of sorts at 11 p.m. Eastern on the YouTube channel. So join me for that, and you can talk on the side chat while I read the story or while I'm giving you useless knowledge that you didn't ask for on Thursday night. So anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks Kelly, and I'll see everybody on Tuesday hopefully.
All right. Good night, guys.
Thank you.
So